Hello students, I am Dr. Vidya Patil and in today's video we will be discussing about certain basic concepts of literature. In this video, we will try to understand what is the meaning, nature and definition of the term literature. We will also try to trace how the meaning of the term literature has evolved with time. So come students, let us begin with this video. So students, let us now begin with the first unit, preliminary considerations. Today's topic, as I've already told you, is basic concepts of literature. This lesson will try to understand the contemporary meaning, nature and definition of the term literature. We'll also try to find out the origins of the term literature and how the meaning and definition of literature has changed and evolved with the times. Also, in this lesson, we will try to understand what is the modern concept of literature. This lesson is actually a thought provoking essay. In this essay, we find a very detailed discussion about what is the contemporary relevance of the term literature and what it implies for students. So, what you'll actually be learning in this lesson is the meaning of the term literature and what this term is or how it is relevant for us in the modern times. So, students, let us begin with a look at the origins of the term literature. In all ancient civilizations, literature became popular, especially in the Western tradition and in our own Bharatiya or Indian tradition. In the Western tradition, the general terms which were used for creative arts were poet and poetry. Similarly, in the Bharatiya tradition, the main terms which was used was kavya. This term kavya or this category of art was further subdivided into Shravya Kavya and Drishya Kavya. Shravya Kavya was all those works which were to be read or heard, generally heard. Drishya Kavya were those works which could be seen or enacted. That is, either a play which was enacted in front of the people or a certain illustration or a drawing which could be seen. So, in our ancient traditions, it was generally the word poetry or kavya which meant literature. The actual use of the term literature took place just in the last 2 centuries. That is, in the last 200 or 250 years. We find that this term literature has taken the place of the term poetry. Let us now look at the definition of the term literature. According to the Collins Dictionary of the English Language, we find that literature is first of all defined as written material such as poetry, novels, essays, etc., works of imagination characterized by excellence of style and expression and by themes of general or enduring interest. That is, here it means that anything which is written in English language and which has excellent style and expression to it and is about a theme which is of universal interest, then it is known as a literature. any body of work which has been written by a particular culture or people. For example, anything which is related to the Chinese language or which is related to the Italian language will then be called as referred to as Chinese literature or Italian literature. Thirdly, they define literature as written or printed matter of a particular type or on a particular subject. So, if there is any written text on medicine, then it is called literature about medicine. If it is about science, then it is known as scientific literature. So, any text referring to a particular field or area of interest is then denoted as the literature for that particular subject. The fourth definition given is printed material or on a particular type of information. So, generally, when you purchase a washing machine or an air cooler or any electrical appliance, you will get a small pamphlet with it which contains certain instructions. Even this is sometimes referred to as literature because it is related to a particular type of information. Also, the art or profession of a writer is also known as literature. So, any writer who writes anything is related to literature. Thus, we see that in a broad sense, literature can refer to many different things. But generally, when we talk about literature in our day to day life, we mean the first meaning, that is, any written material which has got excellent use of language and which is of enduring interest, that is, over the ages, it continues to interest mankind or which has a universal theme. So, this is considered to be the most common definition of literature. Now, students, let us try to trace how the meaning of the word literature has changed with times. The English word literature is actually derived from a Latin word litera, which means a letter of the alphabet. In the late Middle Ages till the 18th century, literature generally meant intellectual property of a person or knowledge of letters. So, what it means is that literature was considered to be the knowledge of a person which he wrote in his own individual capacity. Later on, during the later part of the 18th century, a new meaning was added to the term literature. It now became not only knowledge of books but also the production of books, that is, the occupation of a professional writer. Therefore, literature now began to mean anything which was written by a writer. In the beginning of the 19th century, there was a semantic shift which led towards the modern notion of literature. So, there was a complete change in the meaning of the term, and now the modern concept of literature came across. Now, it means a body of writings which is produced in a particular culture or a particular period of a nation. So, any writings which depict the culture of a particular time can be called literature. It also symbolizes certain ideas and values which are considered to be noble and which we need to attain, which are valued by the society of that time. Thus, in the modern context, literature is said to represent the spirit of a nation or an age. Literature is now considered to be a reflection of the society of that time. So, the modern concept of literature is quite different from the origin of the term literature. Now, let us try to examine the concept of aesthetization of literature. Aesthetics is a word which is very related to the term literature. The term aesthetics means the art of appreciating beauty. Now, a famous literary critic, Rene Belleck, states that literature has been influenced by nationalization and aesthetization. So, what he means to say is that the meaning of the term literature took on the flavor of nationalization and aesthetization, especially during the late 19th century. In the Romantic period, the term literature was used in a very restricted sense to any kind of writing which had beauty of form and an emotional effect. Now, beauty of form or the literary style and emotional effect, which meant which appeals to the feelings and emotions of the audience. Here, all other kind of writings like history, philosophy, politics, theology was considered to be different from literature. It was not included as a part of literature. But with the changing times and the scientific temper in the society, people started questioning the terms beauty of form and emotional effect, as these were based on assumptions and varied from one person to the other. So, one person could find a particular text as having a great emotional effect, while someone else may not agree to it. So, it was believed that aesthetization cannot be restricted to the meaning of literature. And so, we now see in the modern world a much more broader concept to the term literature. So, students, let us now look at the modern concept of literature. As we discussed earlier, that the meaning of the term literature, which was used in a very restricted sense, in the modern times takes on a much more broader sense. The boundaries of literature have widened to far reaching ends. Literature now includes religious and philosophical texts, essays, autobiographical writings, and even examples of creative non fiction, along with poems, plays, and prose fiction. So, much wider range of texts are now categorized under the term literature. The meaning of the term literature has expanded beyond the written word to include even oral compositions as well as movies, that is, cinematic compositions also. So, students, at the end, I would like to summarize what we have learned in this session. The word literature has taken the place of poetry in the last 2 centuries. So, the poetry was the term which was used in the ancient times to refer to creative written works of art. But in the past 2 centuries, this term from poetry shifted to the term literature. The word literature is derived from a Latin term litera, which means a letter of the alphabet. Literature reflects the spirit of a nation or an age. That is, that literature reflects about the social conventions and the customs and depicts the society of a particular age. Rene Wellek, the famous literary critic, talks about how literature was influenced a lot by nationalization and aesthetization. So he says that any written work which has beauty of form and an emotional appeal can be classified as literature. Lastly, we see that in the modern times, we have a much broader sense of the term literature being used. So, the boundaries of literature have now widened, and the term literature includes a wide range of creative arts. So, students, in this video, you have seen how the term literature has evolved with the times. So, students, now I think you must have understood the concept of the term literature, how it originated, the definition, the meaning, the evolution of the term literature, and also the modern meaning of the term literature. We will be studying many more such aspects of literature in our future videos. Thank you.